Jornasecia was once a union of multiple Secian states unified under the same flag that dissolved in the 1990s. But during its 90 years of existence, Jornasecia was a major player in the international community. During its existence, the capital of Jornasecia was the city of Sornuborgsen, home to 2.7 million people in the 1980s. Located in modern-day Janvia, it is home to many important buildings and monuments, one of which being the Dorsa Sorada, which has been the House of Congress since 1910 and has served several administrations. Another is Sornu Park, made in honor of Jorge Sornu and was constructed in the early 1930s. Another major city was the city of Vistyata, with a population of 997,000 during the 1980s. The city is known to be one of the oldest cities in the country, dating back to the Rhetoric Empire over 1,000 years ago, and still retains its original name. Therefore, it has been a prime archaeological site for decades. The city is also known for its mix of Rhetoric and Secian cuisine. For example, foods like pizza and solvent fries are very popular, as well as the Secian foods like bador. The last major city I will mention is Dorsagov. The main attraction of this city is the 3 large castles built during the 1200s, during the reign of Hadorsk II, to defend the city during the Second Secian War. But now they overlook the city as the most recognizable part of the city. Now on to the history of Jornasecia. We will start in 1899. This comes 2 years after the fall of the Slovano-Vosonoki Empire. The countries of Masavan, Menska, Venorsk, Janvia, and Arvoja were now independent, but they feared that the neighboring country of Vosonok would try to retake these countries, repeating what happened during both Secian wars. This also brought a sense of union between these countries' populations. So in 1899 to 1991, the country of Jornasecia was born and reigned as a constitutional republic. In 1910, their neighbor Kazakhstan underwent a revolution and asked Jornasecia for help, which Jornasecia obliged, seeing it as an opportunity to test the newly invented aircraft in warfare. Over the next year, the Jornasecians were able to use aircraft in reconnaissance roles and even experimented with dropping bombs. But over the next decade, Jornasecia would go through major economic crisis, with the poor working class taking the worst of it. All of this would lead to the January Revolution in 1920, led by the communist Jorge Sornu. He led the country into a new age and formed the Sek Soroskna, and Jornasecia became known as the People's Socialist Republic of Jornasecia. From 1920 onward, Jorge Sornu led Jornasecia up until 1926, when during a speech he was assassinated by Adordanda, who was an anti-revolutionary. He hoped that this would end the Sek Soroskna, but it only turned Jorge into a martyr. Skipping a few decades to the 1940s, this is when Jornasecia joined the Yamatian League against Broknia and its allies, with Jornasecia playing a major role as the prime manufacturer of vehicles and weapons, as well as having Sornuborgsen as the capital of the Yamatian League. But this made Jornasecia a target for the Broknians, and after they conquered Ostrovenia, they made Jornasecia their main target. Starting in 1941, they pushed further and further into Jornasecian territory, eventually reaching the city of Vistyata. This city was a major target for the Broknians since it was the gateway to the east and therefore the capital, though in 1942 the siege began and lasted until 1944, and was the bloodiest battle of the war with over 2 million deaths. But after winning the battle, Jornasecia pushed the Broknians back, and after another 5 years the war finally ended after 11 years. After the war, Jornasecia became a major manufacturer for many industries, which majorly boosted its economy, even during the 1953 World Economic Crisis. This time of economic growth went on until the mid-1970s. The country went into hard economic times, with many people struggling to pay taxes. So in order to solve this, the country's president at the time, Sorg Sahanst, decided to obtain some Karstani oil fields. This started with negotiations but since the countries were not on good terms, the negotiations fell through, which made Zorgsa Hans decide to forcefully obtain the oil fields, sparking the Kurdistani War in 1978. Due to Kyrgyzstan's mountainous terrain and hot deserts, the war was at a standstill, and Jornasecia struggled with desertion and high attrition rates. This continued until 1983, after the death of Jornasecia's top general, Fodorsk Sornu, after a transport helicopter was shot down. With the death of the general and Jornasecia's struggling economy, Jornasecia pulled out of the war and was forced to pay reparations, which only worsened the economy. Eventually, in 1993, Jornasecia collapsed due to its economic strain and growing ethnic tensions.